High achievement, low resilience. The crisis we don't see in modern education. Over the last few years, I've been thinking about something that makes me really uncomfortable. Our students are achieving more than ever before. They're achieving higher marks, they're getting better ranks, they're having stronger resumes, they have much more exposure than our generations ever had. On the surface, it all looks like great progress. But underneath this progress, I'm seeing something else. I'm seeing more anxiety. I'm seeing more emotional fragility. I see more fear of failure. I see more identity crisis when things don't go exactly as planned. And I keep asking myself, what changed? I think back a couple of decades, parenting and teaching had a different tone. Were expectations high? Absolutely. Were marks important? Yes. But resilience was built almost effortlessly in those generations of parenting and teaching. Failure was handled differently. If we scored less, we were told work harder. We were told be stronger. We were told this is part of life. We were not treated as fragile beings. We were prepared for friction. But today, something subtle has shifted. And I say this very carefully because this is not universal. There are still many balanced and thoughtful parents. But increasingly, I see a pattern, an optimization for performance, not for process, not for emotional strength, not for long-term character. At Gyanville Academy, I see both kinds of parenting. There are parents who focus on growth, discipline, balance, and effort. Their children tend to handle setbacks better. And then there are parents, increasingly more in number, whose emotional energy is tied entirely to outcomes, to results. They expect a certain performance level. If the child scores 95 instead of 98, it seems like a failure to them. Sometimes the child has done very well, just not well enough for the internal benchmark of that parents, and something changes. Encouragement becomes silence. Celebration becomes comparison. Pride becomes pressure. I've seen moments where parents don't even show up to celebratory events because the result did not match their expectation. Think about what this communicates to the child. The message becomes clear. You are valuable when you meet my performance standard. This is a very heavy emotional burden. When achievement becomes identity, failure becomes existential. And when failure becomes existential, resilience of the child weakens. We have created an ecosystem of over-optimization. Students optimize for percentiles, parents optimize for prestige, schools are optimized for results. But who is optimizing for resilience? Now, layer onto this the world our children are entering. A world reshaped by AI. Jobs are changing. Career paths are uncertain. Industries are evolving faster than syllabi. AI is raising the floor. Information is abundant. Answers are instant. Knowledge is accessible. Knowledge is all pervasive. But resilience still has to be built the slow way, through discomfort, through constructive failure, through delayed gratification, through stable support during disappointment. In an uncertain world, emotional stability becomes more important, not less. The future will not reward those who never failed. It will reward those who can adapt without collapsing. At Gyanville, we try to be intentional about this. That is why we give high weightage not just to marks, but to discipline, but to attendance, but to conduct, and more importantly, to the responsibility they take up. Because showing up consistently builds strength. Handling small discomforts builds capacity for handling larger discomforts. And sometimes, during milestone moments, when expectations overshadow celebration, we try to simply be present. Not as a substitute for parents, but as stabilizers, as witnesses. To say, you showed up, you tried, you grew, and you are more than this number, more than this rank, more than this result. Institutions like ours can never replace families, but they can provide emotional scaffolding when pressure becomes overwhelming. And I increasingly believe that is a part of modern education is responsibility. Not just produce achievers, but to build resilient human beings. Let me be clear. This is not about lowering standards. Excellence matters. Ambition matters. Performance matters. But if performance becomes the only language of love, something breaks. If we over-engineer childhood for perfection, we underprepare adulthood for uncertainty. Achievement without resilience is very fragile, and resilience without achievement is incomplete. We need both. But in the age of AI, in the age of unpredictability, resilience may be the stronger advantage because intelligence can be augmented, but emotional stability cannot be automated. We don't need weaker expectations. We need wiser expectations. Expect effort, expect integrity, expect growth. But more importantly, protect resilience, because the strongest competitive advantage in the future will not be the highest rank, it will be the most grounded mind. We don't just need stronger toppers, we need stronger human beings. And education must take responsibility for that.